New York, your station for news as it happens. I'll be back with another 15 minutes of news at 11 o'clock, and here's Gene Shepard.
Sit on my knee, baby, and I'll tell you some fantastic stories. Yes, you just sit here right on my knee there. Yes, indeed. And now it's story time. Yes, all the thrill of victory and the drama of defeat will be yours in the next 45 fun-filled, scintillating moments. How about making this tonight a salute to Ed McMahon, one of the great Americans of our time? Did you hear that Ed McMahon is appearing at the Maisonette? Yeah, he's appearing in... I wonder what he does, does a guest Alpo dog food commercial, maybe? Or I see. And he laughs at somebody's joke in the audience? Would you please, Art, please? I feel an overwhelming urge to irritate them to almost beyond the point of non-bearing. Bring it on, bring it. Yeah, Mr. T. Come on, all together now. Let's go, gang. Yeah, the bear missed the train. Come on, Art, big bear missed the train, and now he's walking. Don't be gentle about it. Bear missed the train. Oh, the bear missed the train. Oh, the bear missed the train, and now he's walking. He's walking. Oh, the bear missed the train. The bear missed the train. The bear missed the train, and now he's walking. All together now. Hold it there. Yeah, that's enough. That's enough. You reset that there, please, Arthur, will you? Yes, you reset that here. Here, we're all set now. Well, now, look, we have a little note here. I have to approach this somewhat tenderly here. We have a little note here. It says, Shepard, it says, did you see the piece in the New York Times about this guy that tried all the dog foods? Yes, I agree. I'll read this note. He says, Shepard, he says, animal cuckoos are getting really out of hand. He says, in fact, in New York, animal cuckoos are getting totally hairy. They're beginning to confuse dogs with people, which is true. I mean, in New York, I know more than one marriage that's broken up over a dog. Seriously. And did you see the piece in the Times about this guy that tried, he's the food editor, incidentally, of the Times, and he tried all the various dog foods to see how they tasted. Did you see that piece? You did? Did you read his criticism? He even gave them stars. Now, for those of you, I mean, there's something really completely nutty about that. Now, I hate to tell you, Mr. Sokolov, who is the food editor of the times who tasted all these various dog foods. Dogs have different tastes than people. In other words, it is a well-known established fact that what tastes good to a dog tastes totally rotten to a person. Now, I personally know one dog that is completely ape for very, very elderly dead fish, which he rolls in first. He rolls on them, see? He digs them up, rolls on them, and then eats them. Now, and he thinks they're great. Now, I am not, I'm not about to make any value judgments on dogs, because you see, a dog is a dog. And he tends to have different tastes than people. For example, here's the human critic, and here are the stars that he's given various types of dog food. For those of you who haven't followed the times, we'll tell you what he's done. For example, milk bone biscuit. Now, you've seen milk bone biscuit on the shelves. This gets a 3-star rating, which is damn high rating. I know certain restaurants in town that no way could they get 3-star ratings. But milk bone biscuit hits a 3-star rating. And here is what their criticism says. It says, it could replace rye crisp with a little salt and butter. Well, how about this dog food called Prime Chicken? Prime, chicken flavored. You've seen Prime. Well, that's a 2-star. It says no chicken taste, moist, sweet cubes like yellow cake. Well, that's a pretty harsh definition and analysis of the Prime chicken flavored. Actually, among dog foods, that's not a bad tasting one. But by human standards, Medallion beef flavored chunks, 2 stars. It says texture like a cake, strong meat flavor. Well, that doesn't sound bad. I've gone to restaurants for years and ordered steaks and didn't get a strong meat flavor. I have no idea what they make them out of, those steaks, but it ain't meat. In fact, I know one restaurant in town that's very expensive. All the expense account guys go there. You know, that's a special world anyway. And I swear they're the first to experiment with the new plastic steaks. They don't taste like steaks. In fact, they realize that most expense account guys drink their lunch anyway. The steak is merely symbolic. It arrives, and after 9 martinis and before 7 brandies, the steak is just a thing. You know, you poke it for a while, and then they take it away. I suspect they use it over and over again. They take it back in the kitchen, wash it, pour more gravy on it, and it's ready to be served. Purina dog chow. Now, I don't know how he figures this one. 1 star, Purina dog chow. He says stale biscuit texture. Well, actually, dogs tend to like that crunchy texture, Mr. Sokolov. In fact, dogs tend to go ape over that crunchy flavor. Have you ever seen a dog eat a 5-year-old bone that he's dragged up out of the yard and eat it with great gusto? Now, that is a stale bone. Something about the taste of stale, crunchy stuff appeals to particularly dachshunds. Stale biscuit texture, but subtle meat flavor. And appreciably dry when moistened, not appreciably dry when moistened. Now, I can't figure that statement out. That is a typical non sequitur of the times. What the hell is dry when it's moistened, Mr. Sokolov? I asked you that question again. Did you hear what he says? Not appreciably dry when moistened. That is a non sequitur. That's like saying Fred came in out of the rain, somewhat wet. Or Fred found it difficult to keep dry while swimming. Yes, that follows. But nevertheless, I'll tell you about Purina dog chow. Every dog I've ever seen gets around that. He goes totally ape over it. What it is in it, I don't know. Apparently it doesn't appeal to Mr. Sokolov. But then again, on the other hand, now let's put it on the other foot, Mr. Sokolov. Have you ever given food which is appreciated by human beings to dogs? For example, I have not yet known a dog that enjoys pickles. Now, I'm serious. Have you ever tried to give a dog a pickle? He just, kind of looks at it, walks away. And yet I know many pickle cuckoos, human types who enjoy pickles. On the other hand, I do know certain dogs who enjoy lettuce, which, don't ask me, I don't. By the way, Laddie Boy Lamb Chunks gets 1 star. And here's the capsule description of it. It says, best odor of all moist foods, but no taste. Gooey texture. Well, that's possibly true. Top choice chopped burger gets no stars at all. It says tasteless, rubbery, drastically red color, and pasty in the mouth. A Gaines meal, like concretized sawdust. That's unkind. Alpo horse meat chunks. Awful looking, smells like stew, tasted foul. Well, dogs tend to like stuff that is awful looking and smells foul. I wish they were different. Here's one that's totally unrated. They won't even talk about this one. It's called Daily All Breed Liver Flavor. Daily All Breed. Strong, mysterious odor. Couldn't get it down. Well, that describes certain restaurants I've eaten in. Strong, mysterious odor. Can't get it down. Well, I'll tell you, I'd have to salute Mr. Sokolov, but he represents a New York attitude where this is only in New York would this happen, in a time of gradual expanding nuttiness. In fact, we're going through a time now very similar to the days of the French Revolution. Did you know that during the French Revolution, they got so ape over animals? We now see the results of it, with the French poodle, the little poodle who wears dresses and all that stuff, that during the days of the French Revolution, it was quite common for people to include and give the dog legally their last name, and to include the dog in all family wills, family codicils, arguments, discussions, and the dog had more to say about what happened in the house than the old man, often, because usually his voice was louder and he bit harder. But the facts of the matter are that the French Revolution, the French went through this too, this whole thing with animals. So maybe it's significant. Here in only in New York, though. Have you seen some of those commercials? Did you see the commercial where the guy comes into his house and he says, "I'm home, gang"? And you can tell, he's a certain type. Anyway, he comes in, he says, "I'm home, gang. Oh, we're going to have such a wonderful meal." And he comes in with all these packages. Oh, my God. And out of the next room come 3 cats. He says, "Oh, Daddy's home." Oh. May I paraphrase Dorothy Parker? It makes you want to throw up. But that's in New York. New York attitude. And it's a very common one. Although let's not put this down entirely. I had a friend, and this little story may be a little sickening to you, but I'm just going to tell it to you because it's a true story. This friend of mine was going to a certain school out in the Midwest, see. For purposes of argument, we'll call it Indiana, right? Is there a school called Indiana University? Is there really? Oh, there is. I see. By George, where is it? Huh? It's amazing how seriously people take your lines when you read them deadpan. That's like standing out on a stage and saying, "Let's invent a college for the purpose. Let's see, how about Yale? We'll name it after a lock. Let's pick somebody. Is there a Yale?" And let's say, "Yes, there is." They raise their hand. Yes, don't stop. There is a Yale. Well, nevertheless, let's just say that this guy was going to Indiana, see, and he decided over this winter that he was going to make the scene big, And by the way, friends, before we go any further, if you want to make the scene big, and you want to really, lay it on some chick, some night we'd like to suggest that you take her to the House of Chan, before you go to the elegant theater date that you're going to see. You're going to go to some, big. There's some big, by the way, speaking of elegant theater dates, the other day I'm walking along Times Square, see, and they got all these porny houses, all these porny movies. And what do you think's happening on this night? There's about 500 of them out there standing in front of this porny place and it says, "Tonight." It's a sneak preview. Stars here tonight in person. And I just, there was a kind of an elegant rococo quality that, and I say this, if your civilization is going to decay, it might as well do it in style. Do you agree? I mean, we might as well go downhill with all bells ringing. I mean, there's no sense just schlumping off stage of history. Let's go out with all the Roman candles flying. But if you're going to attend some elegant preview of that type some night, we'd like to suggest that before you go to the preview, if you're a lucky New Yorker, you just drop into the House of Chan. It's at 52nd and 7th Avenue, and you just tell them that you're going to make a curtain tonight. You know, the stars are going to be there in person. You want to be there on time to see them all come in, get an autograph and all that stuff. Well, you try this magnificent Chinese food. It's inscrutably delicious. Always a unique, exciting dining experience. And at 7th Avenue at 52nd Street, it's one of the great ideas of Eastern man. It's the House of Chan. Now, let's see. We have another little thingy here. It's speaking one of the great ideas of Western man. This is WOR, New York. We're just an idea, let's face it. Just a great concept. I mean, the whole idea. Here you're sitting out there listening to us, see? And as it occurred to you, it's all in your head. That all we are is a bunch of little electronic radio waves coming at you. It's not tangible. It's just a great, magnificent idea. WR, isn't it, gang? Yes, indeed. Well, I mean, no. I don't want this to sound chauvinistic. Not at all. After all, when you're standing in front of the pyramid and you say, "Wow, is that big?" Now, is that a chauvinistic remark if you're say, an Egyptian, of the 12th dynasty? No, you're stating a fact. It's just a fantastic idea of Western man. And let's see, we have a couple of other dingies here. Yes. Surprise, we have a General Tire spot here. I knew you'd be surprised. Get set for the rugged winter driving ahead during pick-a-pair time at your local General Tire headquarters. You take your pick. Winter tires start as low as $37.90 a pair, and regular tires start as low as $35.90 a pair. Now, these are very complicated figures to be listening to at this time of night, and I will not burden your head with all these complex differential equations about how, a federal excise tax is multiplied by 2, subtract 3, and add 12%, and then subtract another 3% if you buy it from a qualified dealer outside of Westchester County. So we won't burden you with all that stuff. You just go to your General Tire dealer, and let's see, in Paramus, see Larry Levi at Stern Brothers Auto Service Center in Bergen Mall. It's an elegant place there. You can tell them by the ballpoint fringe in the window. Anyway, this friend of mine was going to Indiana, see. Now, you've gone down in the village, and you've seen, the hippie panhandler. It's a whole big thing in New York, This guy coming up, he's 6'9", weighs 270 pounds. He's got a daddy living out in Darien who is keeping him in guitar strings and all this stuff, see? And he comes up to you and he says, "Hey, you got any change?" Well, some are successful and some are not. You tend to lump them together, right? Well, this is this is a bad thing to do because you cannot lump people together any more than you can lump, say, Kodiak bears together. I mean, you can't make any rash statement. By the way, a friend of mine, he put together a TV show that starred a bear, You remember Gentle Ben? Well, the day that Gentle Ben previewed, the first day that it came on television, you remember it on TV? First day it came on, that was the day that this bear got loose in Yellowstone Park and ate 3 people. He says it changed everybody's attitude. Gentle Ben. He says, that would never happen. He said, if it was Roone Arledge that produced it, he said, never would happen to him. But you gotta pick it up as it comes. You can't push your luck. And so this friend of mine over the winter, see, he decided he was going to be a hippie, and he found out a terrible reality about the hippie world. Some are cut out for it, and others not. Right, Art? Some could cut it, and the other just sort of stand around and look like bums. They don't quite. It's a matter of style. It's like everything else. A guy can go down to Abercrombie and Fitch, and he can buy himself $12,000 worth of duck hunting suits. He gets himself a fancy gun, the whole bit. He gets one of these little duck hunting things, that you blow into, and it goes quack, quack, quack. And he just don't look like a duck hunter. He looks like a guy getting ready to go to a Halloween party. And but there, no way, you can't fake it. And even the ducks are not fooled. So a duck flying at 4,000 feet is not going to be shot by any fake duck hunter. Just no way. And so you're either cut out for your role or you're not. No way. We've got at least 3 guys here in our sales department that are not salesmen. They've got the right suits. They bought the right shirts. They holler the right things on the phone, like, okay, see you at lunch. Yeah, we meet you over at the shop. They do all this stuff. No way. No way. No way. In fact, the other day, I got in a cab. Now, you'd think that anybody that's doing a job is really that. You say cab drivers. Well, you assume that anybody who's driving a cab is a cab driver. Well, I'm in this cab, see, and I said, I told him where I wanted to go, see. And it's dead silence. We're riding along for a while. And he says, where'd you say you want to go? I told him again. I see, we're not going there. See? I say, so we went another couple of blocks, and I says, hey, where you going, Mac? He says, what, thought you want to go to 11th and 10th Street, right? I said, no, I said I want to go to 10th Street and 7th Avenue. Oh, I thought you said you wanted to go to 11th Street and 10th Avenue. I said, no, I want to go to 11th Street and 7th Avenue. Oh, yeah, okay. So another 4 or 5 blocks, it looks like we're heading to Staten Island, or Queens or someplace. Finally, I says, hey, where you going, Mac? He says, well, I thought you wanted to go to 10th Street and 11th Avenue. I says, no, I said I want to go to 10th Street and 7th Avenue. And so, the pregnant pause. And finally, I had to say it. I says, don't you know the way to get there, Mac? He says, look, I can't tell you how I hate this damn cab driving. Well, all of a sudden it was pouring into the back seat. All the drama, all the tragedy of modern life. Here was a man cast in a role that he should not have been in. And furthermore, he felt a great resentment against society for casting him in this role. I says, well, what should you have been? I mean, you're a cab driver, right? And all the while the meter's going tick, 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 tick. But already we passed 3 times the fare it would have cost had he been a cab driver. See, he's doing pretty good for a non-cab driver. So we finally get down to 10th Street and, and 11th, 10th Street and 7th Avenue. I had to drive the last 9 blocks. And we got down there. He said, gee, I want to thank you. He said, I can't tell you. I'm not really a cab driver. I said, well, gee, that's too bad. I don't know what to say. He says, oh, it's terrible. Of course, I tipped him twice over because of the tears. I walked 2 blocks away, and I realized he was the most adroit cab driver I ever met. This guy shucked me cleaner than an ear of corn. I mean, he got $9 for a $1.50 ride. And I thought, oh, well, so you get taken in. But nevertheless, I'd like to point out, friends, that you can say a role, but that doesn't mean you can pull it off. So this buddy of mine decided over the winter he's going to have the hip experience. He read about it in Life magazine. He's going to have the hip experience. And so summertime came, and he and his friend hitchhiked north. Now, Indiana's in the southern part of the state. They hitchhiked north. And he said, it was terrible. We get out on Route 41 there, see? And he says, we're hitchhiking like all the other guys. We got a big sign that just simply said Boston. These signs that they raised. He had a sign. We just wrote a sign. We wrote Chicago. See? And he says, guys kept going by us. And they'd go down 4 blocks, and they'd pick up the guys that are behind us. They were picking guys up ahead of us. He said it took us about 3 days just to get out of town. And we were going north to Chicago by maybe 2-block jumps. He says, every 3 hours we'd get a ride for 2 blocks. He says, this would take us roughly till the middle of September, to get to Chicago. He said, and what's worse, we kept going sideways. We are heading towards Ohio gradually. He says, we were terrible hitchhikers. He said, after about 6 weeks of hitchhiking, we finally got in a town called Michigan City, which is very far right of Chicago. If you look at it in a map, see, it's about 400 miles it's about 60 miles to the right of Chicago. So we decided what we were going to do is spend the summer in Michigan City, being hippies. He said, there were other guys walking around, long hair. He said, they were smoking pot, doing the whole bit, and they were walking around being very hip. He says, and me and Jaime fell in with the crowd. Shortly thereafter, he said, we discovered that being a hippie is not as easy as it looks. First of all, these guys are all walking around panhandling. He says, so we walk out, we stand on the street saying, got any change? It's nothing. Guys just give us a bad look. So 3 weeks later, we are totally out of money. So what we began to live on is we had to do it. He says, what we began to live on, and this guy actually went through this experience. And Mr. Sokolov, I'm going to point this directly at you. Mr. Sokolov, are you listening? He says, one day, me and Jaime are down to about 60 cents. He says, and we are really hungry. And he says, you know what it is? It's embarrassment. He says, I could never get over being embarrassed walking up to a guy saying, you got any change? He says, we'd come through. And he says, and once you show embarrassment, the guy you're asking is embarrassed, and he turns his head and walks away. He says, we were not cutting it. So we walk into the A&P. Now, we had heard that the thing that the hippies do is to rip off stuff. You go in, you steal stuff, right, to eat? He said, but I couldn't get myself to do it. He said, I walk up to this, this counter full of all kinds of goodies. He says, and I reach over, and he said, I couldn't do it. So he said, there was only one thing to do. Me and Jaime bought a can of Ann Page pork and beans. He said, which came in a great big can for only something like 26 cents. We went outside and we ate it. It was our can of beans. And he said, we had no way to heat it, see? So we ate the can of beans. Now we are down to 40 cents. You got it, friends? His money is going down. The next day, we went in and we got another can of beans. He said, great big can. It's cheap, see? We got a big can. We ate that again. Well, now we're down to 20 cents. You couldn't even get a can of beans for 20 cents. So we're walking around the store to see what we could get for 20 cents. That was enough for both of us. There was only one thing. Ken-L Ration. We bought a can of Ken-L Ration for 21 cents. He said we had 24 cents. We bought a can of Ken-L Ration, and it comes in different flavors, beef, liver, chicken. He says we bought the beef flavor. So we took it out, and back of the sign where we were living, he says we were living in a vacant lot back of a sign, and we went back of the sign, and he said we take this rock that we had been using to open our bean cans, and he says we pound the top in, and we smell this Ken-L Ration. I pass it over to Jaime. He smells it. Oh, that's great. He says, I want to tell you, after you've been eating nothing but beans for 3 days, you'll be surprised, Mr. Sokolov, how delicious Ken-L Ration beef-flavored chunks taste and smell. He says, well, what we did then, we built this fire, and we heated it in the can. And he said, the three of us, me, Jaime, he says, and another guy that was just sitting over there looking sad, we ate this can of Ken-L Ration beef chunk flavor with the vegetable stews in it. He said, it was fantastic. You have no idea how that tasted. He said, well, from that time on, said, I knew, one, I was not, at no point was I a hippie. I had to go straight. The only way. He said, but since that time, he says, every time I go into the store, no. He says, now I'm working, got a job. I walk around. He said, I go through the pet department. And there I see those cans of Ken-L Ration. He says, I wonder what would happen if I brought a can of that home, just for old time's sake. Heated it up. Had a little bourbon with it, maybe. A little martini before it. Maybe some frozen peas with it. And he was thinking about that, see? Now, listen carefully now, the next step. You want to hear the next step of the story, Mr. Sokolov? This tasted so good to him that he got a very definite liking for Ken-L Ration beef-flavored chunks. So one night, this was just about 3 months ago, he actually did it. He had a bunch of friends over. I'm going to tell you what he did. he took a great big, beautiful Danish casserole dish. You know, the kind that's burnt orange, has the teakwood handles on it with a big cover on it with a bird on the top, you know, beautiful teakwood. And he emptied 6 cans of Ken-L Ration, beef chunk stew into this thing. And he baked it, and he served it to his friends. And they loved it. A few martinis before dinner, a little stew, some Fritos, you know, a little rice on the side, and he was an instant success. An instant success. You don't have one, sir?
We're the 4th grade from PS41, and we want to see the Red Baron of Lufthansa German Airlines. Is he real?
Of course he's real. Only today the Red Baron is inspecting the Lufthansa kitchens in New York. In first class, the Red Baron has a menu just like you get in a fancy restaurant. And you can pick whatever you wish from the menu. I know. I have flown with the Red Baron.
My father says Lufthansa is a German airline, and the Red Baron is on every plane to make sure everything goes just right.
Not really. On every Lufthansa flight, there are nice stewardesses to serve you your food and drinks and help you to be comfortable. And also we have man stewards, too. They all can tell you places to see and things to do when you get to Germany. After all, nobody would know Germany better than us. That's why so many people fly to Germany on Lufthansa.
Because the Red Baron tells them to.
No, because they like Lufthansa. I ought to know.
Oh, you're Mrs. Red Baron?
Why don't you just say we're good friends?
Oh, wow. You know, there's a curious quality of necrophilia about that. You know, there really was a Red Baron. That was not invented by Snoopy. And by the way, do you know that during his days, when the Red Baron was really working and doing what he did, which was shoot down airplanes, did you know he was very rarely called the Red Baron? What was he actually called? Hey, Jerry, do you know, Art, what was the Red Baron actually called during his days as a famous flyer? Do you have any idea? The term Red Baron was rarely applied to him. What was he actually called, historically? You know? Well, in fact, there was a famous book written about him that probably made him famous. I mean, it was what made him... He was called the Red Knight. He was called the Red Knight of Germany. K-N-I-G-H-T. Baron... was rarely applied to him. And you know what his squadron, which was a famous fighter squadron, on the front there, the French-German front, what they called the English that they fought, they always referred to them as the Lords. Every time they shot a plane down, they said, "I got a Lord today." That was their term of putting them down, you know. And so the term, the Red Knight of Germany, was also a tongue-in-cheek kind of put down. But when I hear these spots, I think, you know, I wonder how many kids think that Snoopy invented the Red Baron. You know, the Red Baron. Listen, speaking of great inventions of modern man, we have a kasha spot here. Kasha? What is a kasha? According to this commercial, it's nutty flavored little golden kernels of roasted groats. What is a groat? I mean, it's well, I don't know. In fact, there was a plane recently hijacked. It said that there were some groats aboard that hijacked the plane, disgruntled over the way they were being treated in their nation. They have their own country, you know. But nevertheless, Wolf's is big on protein. A pound of kasha has as much protein as over a half pound of beef. Now, that's not to say that you prefer kasha to beef, but I suppose there are those that do. And we have a Wolf's Kasha cookbook that we can send to you. And it's only sent to you if you're over 21 and are a qualified art student. It will be sent to you in plain brown wrapper. Of course, even your friends won't know that you're a Kasha cuckoo. So ask for Wolf's. If you start mainlining Kasha, they'll really think you're a cuckoo. Let's see, what do we have here? Mama Leone? Mama Leone, that's a strange spot to follow a kasha spot with. Hit it.
Do you suppose there lives anywhere across this fabulous country a family that has never eaten at Mama Leone's? Maybe there is, and don't you feel sorry for them? Never heard the noise and laughter of our nightly crowd. Never saw their kids light up at the very color and excitement of our decor. Never saw our statues. Never saw our endless wine cellar. And not only that, they probably never saw a parade of food like Mama serves. Oh, sure, they've had Italian food before, but so what? They haven't had Mama's antipasto. They haven't had the cheeses and rich hot bread and the enormous desserts that Mama serves. And finally, they never ever had main courses that everything else was built around. We seriously suggest if you have a pathetic friend who's never been to Mama Leone's, change his life. Make a reservation for him immediately and let him see what a great Italian restaurant can be like. Take him to Mama Leone's, where strong appetites are met and conquered. Mama Leone's, 239 West 48th Street, Judson 6, 5151.
Yeah. Mama Leone. Hey, you know, that's, I don't know what that, and why that reminded me of it. Have you noticed that every time you can tell tourists by certain ways in New York? For one thing, every tourist I know in New York, whenever he goes to an Italian restaurant, you can tell he's a tourist because he asks if he can have the bottle. You know, the one with the wicker on it. He insists that he take that home. And he also asks for menus. A tourist invariably is seen taking a menu home from a restaurant. What they do with these menus, I don't know. These are all New York tourist things. Speaking of tourist things, the other day, one of my favorite places in New York is to go down to the dime store on 42nd Street. You ever go down to the Woolworths on 42nd Street? You know, or rather on Times Square, not on 42nd Street. Oh, come on, Art. You go in there every day. You're not fooling me at all. I know that's where you get that leatherette tie that you got that clips on. Come on. But there's a whole thing that goes on down there in the basement, and I see tourists, who come from places like Indianapolis, and you know, places like Columbus, Ohio, and they come into the New York dime store, and they walk around, and it's like they're in a foreign country. See, they walk around, they say, look at this, you know, and here they are, they're in a dime store. And it gives them a sense of security, because the dime store is the one thing that Times Square has in common with the main street of Indianapolis. You know, that same feeling. And they also go into the Howard Johnson over here on Times Square. Well, of course, it's been referred, you know, Howard Johnson has been referred to as the Bronx Embassy. So if you ever get lost anywhere, you go to Howard Johnson, maybe they'll straighten out your tourist, your passport. But nevertheless, when you fight your way through this New York scene, you come to the realization that we are different from anybody else in the world. People who live in New York. Now, why? Is this the center of the universe? Could this conceivably be the highest achievement that man will ever reach? New York? Could it be? I mean, it's a scary thought. I mean, I wonder if somebody somewhere is writing another Bible. I mean, I'm sure the guy living in Babylon, I mean, the real Babylon, I'm not talking about Long Island. I mean, the guy living in real Babylon had no idea his town would be so famous. I mean, years later, they're still talking about Babylon and Gomorrah. You imagine a guy who's working for the Junior Chamber of Commerce of Gomorrah. I mean, during the big days of Gomorrah. I mean, I just wonder whether or not he had any concept that somebody was going to write it up and that one day Gomorrah would be a symbol. Sodom and Gomorrah. Do you know there is a town that Sodom still exists? The real Sodom. And I drove through it. It's on the shores of the Dead Sea. And there's a sign, just says Sodom. That's all. It's a gas station. Yeah, that's right. There's a gas station there, believe it or not. And there's a couple of guys, you know, selling keychains, souvenir of Sodom. You can, and if you go down the road a piece, you know, they'll show you where Gomorrah was. But one day, New York will be a legend. And we're here in it, with the Hanging Gardens and all the rest of it. The Hanging Gardens of Babylon on the Sea.
There's an easy fixin' meal that'll please your man. It's a good hearty meal that comes in a can. It's broadcast corned beef hash. It's hearty and good. Oh, so good. We use real corned beef that's cooked just right for a hearty corned beef taste in every loving bite. Of broadcast corned beef hash. It's hearty and good. Oh, so good. Broadcast corned beef hash is made with select corned beef, diced Idaho potatoes, and just the right amount of spices to give it that special broadcast flavor. And for more hearty meals, pick up a can or two of broadcast chili and broadcast stew. So make today a broadcast day with corned beef hash the easy way. It's broadcast corned beef hash. It's hearty and good. Oh, so good. Hearty and good. Oh, so good. Hearty and good. Oh, so good.
Yeah, if you'd like to add a little touch of elegance to your corned beef hash, we'd like to suggest that you pick up some Alexis Lachine wines. It'll go so well with your corned beef hash and your kasha. The reds, the whites, and the rosés. They're poured into elegant bottles. And all you have to do is know that name. You know, you'll be known as Fred, the wine expert in fashionable Queens, because you serve Alexis Lachine wines, the beautiful French wines. And let's see, they're imported by Bass Charrington Vintners of New York. Would you please sing, gentlemen, please?
Alexis Lachine, Alexis Lachine.
Oh, that's elegant, I mean, after all. When you serve a meatloaf made out of corned beef hash, what else, you know? I mean, a little elegance there. And, you know, when you really start pushing the elegant scene, I one time, you know, speaking of elegance, practically every night when I come down through 6th Avenue and cut over through Times Square, I look around at the scene. And I feel the scene and smell it and listen to the sounds. And I think to myself, you know, there will be a time, it's hard for us to ever really seriously consider this, but there will be a time when all of this, the whole thing, will be over. It'll be gone, done, forever. There will be a time. Like 1,000 years from now. Now, it's hard at any time in history to believe that 1,000 years will pass. I mean, it's difficult to understand that there will be a time when nobody who's alive, not one person who's alive today, there'll be no trace of him. There'll be maybe 1,000, 2,000 years. Can you imagine some archaeologist digging up, let's say, a Rock Hudson movie, and they put it on the projector, you know, they have reconstructed an ancient projector, and they're sitting there watching this Rock Hudson Doris Day movie, and it's the only thing left of our civilization. That's it. It's the Rosetta Stone. Either that, or can you imagine the only thing that's left, you know, after all, the Rosetta Stone is just a little piece of stone. And they found it thousands of years after the civilization that made it departed. And the only thing that we have to decipher their civilization is that stone. You know, it's conceivable that 1,000 years from now, the only thing they'll find will be a vault someplace that has 4 mint condition Lady Plumber commercials in it. The remains of an ancient ad agency. And the only way they can tell what our civilization was like, they can play these commercials where this lady's taking tea stains out of the sink. Now, don't laugh. That may be a pretty good indication, because you notice that the apartment in the Lady Plumber commercials looks a little like every apartment. Kind of crummy. They stand and look at this rotten old sink. And that would be a much closer. But then, you know, 1,000 years, and who knows what they would think it is, some kind of a religious ceremony. Speaking of religion, this is WOR New York. Stay tuned for Lester Smith and the news.